there's definitely a certain mindset out there that people in prisons are criminals. They'll always be criminals. That's who they are. A lot of these guys, they just need an opportunity, and they really do have the desire to do something with their lives.
Now you have an opportunity to leave with an actual skill set.
I think this sculpture really did show them what they're hoping to gain with the skill and with the trade and being able to hold down a steady job and rebuild their lives.
Projects like the Arc Redemption sculpture show what's possible when we invest in people and treat them like human beings.
Welcome to the Still Building America podcast with your co-host Josh Welton
and Darla Welton. Americans haven't forgotten how to work with our hands. There's a dynamic generation of young fabricators, blacksmiths, machinists, welders, hot rod builders, metal workers, manufacturing entrepreneurs, and artists who are still building America.
Want to level up your manufacturing or metal fabrication career? Fabricators and Manufacturers Association connects you with the education, training, and community you need to stay ahead. As an FMA member, you'll get access to exclusive resources, industry events, and a network of professionals who share your passion for making things better. Join today and start building your future in manufacturing at fmamfg.org. And now, back to the episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Still Building America podcast. Today's guest is Jesse Oosterhouse, and he is a welding instructor. And we're going to get to where he's a welding instructor in just a moment. But Jesse, first, we want to start out with your background, your journey into welding, and what led you to the position that you're in now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to come talk. And so I never really planned on being in welding when I was in school. The idea had never really occurred to me. But I really did not enjoy school. And so our school worked at the tech center. And when I was in 10th grade, we had the opportunity to go tour it. And I happened to go to the welding program, and it really sparked my interest. No pun intended. But then I signed up for it. And long story short, I really fell in love with welding at that tech center. And that's where I originally learned. And they got me a job as a production welder at a shop nearby. And so I did production welding for a couple of years, and I really did enjoy it. But production welding it got a little bit monotonous after a while. So after doing that for a few years, I decided to go to college, which was something that I'd never planned on doing. But I loved welding. So after doing a little bit of research, I found there was a welding engineering degree. So I went to Ferris State University for welding engineering, got my bachelor's there.
Right on.
And then after that, I interned at a place called Shape Corp, did some automotive work as a welding engineering intern, and then ended up going to a company and worked as a weld shop supervisor and also weld engineer at the same time, kind of doing double duty. And ended up switching into being in charge of one of their buildings while still doing a lot of the welding engineering work there. So that was where I was at before getting my current job as an instructor.
How did you transition, and why did you transition into being an instructor?
So part of my job at the factory that I was working at was dealing with some of the newer employees and training them. And I even had the opportunity to work with some of the unskilled operators that we had and teach them how to become welders and turn them into some of our manual welders. And I really, really enjoyed working with people and showing them how to weld and teaching. And so I was kind of keeping an eye on the job boards and for various reasons related to my old company, and ended up just showing up on a job board, welding instructor at a correctional facility. I had never even known that position existed. I had no idea that correctional facilities taught welding, but I'd previously been interested in maybe someday being an actual welding instructor at like a tech center or a school or something. And so the job really, really piqued my interest. I'm a Christian, and I wanted to make an impact on people's lives, and both of being an example of what a follower of God looks like, and also by teaching them a skill that can help them contribute to society. So long story short, I decided to apply, and obviously I got the job, and here I am now.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful. Can I ask you how old you are?
I am 27.
Okay, I thought
Packed
so.
a lot into
I was like, you are very young for having such a long resume right now. That's incredible, though. Yeah, you packed in a lot of education of your own, so now you're giving back, right?
I get the same reaction from a lot of my students. They're very shocked when they see me that I'm kind of young.
Well, probably some of your students are older than you, right?
Oh yeah. My
Yeah.
youngest is 20, I think, and my oldest is 65, something
Right
like
on.
that. So I got the whole
Mm.
range.
Wow. What did you expect going into the welding program at the correctional facility, and what really surprised you about it?
Yeah. That's a good question. I honestly didn't really know what to expect. Prisons are one of those things that a lot of people, they're there, but you don't really know anything about them. So I had no idea what kind of people were going to be there,
I
what the
just know what
environment.
I learned from Prison Break, so the TV
Oh,
show.
right. Yeah, from watching movies.
Yep.
Um, so I really had no idea what to expect. And I mean, obviously I had a little bit of concern that it was going to be a dangerous job. I didn't know if I was going to be dealing with violent people and my life was going to be threatened. I really had no idea. So those are some of the questions that I was asking when I was going through the interview process for the job. So I would say it really surprised me actually that these guys, when I started working with them, they were great to work with. I just treating them respectfully and treating them like a human being, honestly, and they love it. They're really appreciative to be there. They love having the opportunity to learn a skill, and I have not once felt in danger in any way. I have great relationships with my students, and there's mutual respect there, and yeah, I really do enjoy it. It's really good.
That's one of my questions is going back, not just like teaching people at the factory, but even back when you were a student in school. Because I know, like, having taught a few classes of, 20, 25 people, that you get a few people that are really into it, and then the rest are just there for a credit or you're trying to figure things out. Has there been a difference between the people you teach at the correctional facility, like their attitude going into it? Is there something different that they have learning this skill? I don't know. It's just, I would assume it's a different mentality.
Yeah, for sure. Remembering back to when I was in the tech center, most of the students, I would say the majority, really probably didn't want to be there and they were just doing it as something to do,
Right,
as a
right.
class to sign up for. And even in college, people had signed up to take the program, but a lot of people were more interested in living the college life and they were learning the welding. People
Right,
didn't
right.
take it super seriously. But a lot of these guys, they've really been through the ringer with their lives and they're really wanting to do something differently. And this is almost like a way out, away from what they've been doing with their lives into
A huge
something
opportunity.
productive and opportunity. And you still have a few guys who they're just doing it because it's something to get them out of their units and they're not taking it seriously. There'll always be that.
Right, right.
But I've been surprised by how high a percentage really are taking it seriously and want to be there.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
incredible, especially if they have opportunities to pursue welding jobs after their release. I'm sure that's an opportunity for several of them. Have you had anybody go through your program yet who has been released and stepped out into the welding world?
So that's a good question. I've been there a little over a year now, a year
Okay.
and a few months. So I've only had, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 guys who have actually graduated from the program and paroled out into the world. And unfortunately, you're not allowed to keep very good track of former students because of some of the rules of the Department of Corrections. You're not supposed to have relationships with people who are paroling.
That makes
So I
sense.
can't, yeah, so I can't contact them directly and know what's going on. But I've heard through the grapevine at least a few stories. I know one guy he had actually sent me an email, said that he was going to be pursuing an associate's degree with welding and he was signing up for a college. Another guy, I'd heard he had several interviews set up. I haven't heard yet how they went. I actually met a guy outside of prison who is not a student of mine, but who graduated from the class several years ago. And he's doing process development on his company's one cobot right now. He
Nice.
had graduated from that program a handful of years ago. So yeah, there's definitely some success stories, and it is cool to hear when I do get a chance to hear about it working for people.
That is so incredible. How rewarding is that to hear?
Yeah, it really
It
is.
definitely inspires you to keep going every day, right?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had guys tell me that they've like it almost looks like they're getting a little emotional or saying that they've never succeeded at anything before, and so
Amazing.
yeah, it is really cool to see.
For me personally, I was never growing up. I wasn't a super confident person. I didn't have a lot of, confidence in myself. It just welding kind of gave that to me, and it ended up gave me confidence in the rest of my life and really helped me grow as a person. Just knowing that there's something like, oh man, I can do this. I got this. And it kind of helps push you in other areas of your life, like, whether it's public speaking or just interacting with people on a day-to-day basis. I don't know. There's something that, I don't want to say it's pride necessarily, but there's a sense of fulfillment. And you, if you don't have that, you're kind of wandering around. But once you have that, there's a direction you can go. It kind of helps you deal with the world a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I think we're made to work, and you need to be doing something with
100%.
your life, and working with your hands can be a very, very fulfilling career.
Absolutely.
And welding is something that you can get a lot of stability from and succeed at, and you can become a skilled welder, and you're succeeding at something. You're doing well with your life. You're contributing. You've learned a craft, and it's working for you, and you're doing good, and you excel. It definitely can give a lot of fulfillment.
Do you set up the classes like you would say you were teaching at a community college or a tech center? Do you set up the classes similarly, or is the time different, or how does that work?
It is similar. So I have a morning class and an afternoon class, and there's different guys in each one. So they get approximately 3 hours a day to
Okay.
practice. I would say the main difference between most institutions would be that my guys are coming in randomly and leaving randomly.
Yeah.
So everybody in the class is at a different point.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit harder to, let's say, have everyone in the class and do a lecture, because if I'm teaching welding symbols, well, some of them learned that 4 months ago and other of them haven't touched it yet. So it's hard to do any group teaching. So it's mostly on an individual basis. They're all given their plotters where they have to work through the class, and I just assist them as necessary, going around and helping people where they need it.
Right on. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, a little side note, what other sort of educational programs are provided through the correctional facility?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, actually. Again, the thing that's very surprising to a lot of people. So at our facility, for trades, there are only two of them. There's the welding, and there's a horticulture program. There's also all sorts of school opportunities. They can get their GED, and they can continue on and go to college. And there's colleges that actually come in and partner with MDOC. We partner with Hope College, and the professors come in and teach the classes right there, and they can earn their bachelor's degree on site.
Oh, wow.
But there is several vocational villages is what they're called. And they teach a lot of different trades there. Carpentry, CNC, there's other welding programs. There's a lot of different trades that MDOC offers. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but it is a pretty large number of them.
That's amazing. How well resourced is your shop at the facility?
It's not bad. We have what we need. It would be nice to have, I guess, a little bit more opportunity to purchase some things that are outside of the ordinary, but we do have what we need to teach them everything they need. So we teach them the four main processes: stick, MIG, TIG, and flux core. So they leave being proficient in all those. We also have a FANUC robot, actually. So some of the guys who finish all the welding processes and still have a little bit of time, I'm able to teach them some robotic programming. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Jesse, when I first read about you, it was because of a Michigan Department of Corrections post where they shared about the Arc Redemption sculpture that 30 incarcerated men, your students, had created for the art prize competition, which is an annual international art competition. Absolutely legit. Takes place in Grand Rapids every year.
Very cool event.
Yeah, but you guys had this sculpture there. Tell us about how that came to be. Like, where'd that idea come from?
Yeah. So it was originally the idea of one of my students. And he just kind of mentioned it to me offhand one day, like, hey, why don't we submit something to Art Prize? And at first I kind of shot down the idea. I was like, come on, that's ridiculous. We're in a prison. We don't submit sculptures to Art Prize, you know? But then I started thinking about it a little more. I was like, that could actually be a really cool opportunity for these guys to build something that goes out into the world and people can see and gives them some representation. And so I was thinking about it, and it sounded more and more interesting. So I brought it up with the chain of command, and it got some interest. And there's obviously a long line of approval that's needed for something like that
I
to
can
come to
only
fruition in
imagine.
a prison. It's got to go through all the rounds, up through Lansing and everything, all the way up to the director of the department.
Mm.
But it did end up getting all the approval, and we had to show them our full design of what we were planning on to make sure that that was all good. And we had to make a couple tweaks to our design, but we did end up getting the approval. And unfortunately, we didn't. It was a little bit late that we got the ball rolling on it, so we ended up not being able to really start working on the sculpture until just, I think it was 2 or 3 months before we had to get it installed.
Oh
So
my
it
goodness.
ended up being a pretty short timeline. But yeah, that's how we got started on it.
Well, what inspired the design?
So that was, again, the idea of some of the students. They wanted to make a welding man that showed some of the things that they're hoping to gain from the program. So I don't know if you saw the sign that they're welding on. I guess just to
Yeah.
give a brief description of it, there is a man, a full-size man welding on a sign, and there are all these words on the sign: stability, dignity, family, success, various things. And all those words were come up with by my students. I just asked them, hey, what are you hoping to gain from this program? And I just wrote down a bunch of words that they shouted out. So just wanting to put something out there to the world to show what they were getting with this program and hoping to gain through welding. And all their initials are on the bottom too, which I thought was a cool touch. It gives it
That
kind of
was
a
really cool.
personalized feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like who it represents.
Yeah, there's real people behind this.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm guessing some of their family members and people they know were able to see this at Art Prize.
Yeah, they were very excited about it. It was a process getting it built, and there was a lot of stress and maybe some lost tempers along the way, especially with the short timeline. And some of these guys don't excel in their teamwork abilities.
Right.
So I ended up kind of working more as a coordinator, trying to make sure everyone is working together. But after it got done, there was like a palpable excitement among these guys for it going out there and getting viewed by the public. And they were constantly asking me for updates. And is the media reaching out to you? And where can we go see it? What's the address? And when does our price start? What are the hours? Like all the questions. They were wanting to let all their people know to go check out their sculpture that they'd made. So yeah, there was a ton of excitement about their family and loved ones being able to see something that they made in prison.
That's so rad. That's really, really cool.
It's incredibly moving. I wish I could have seen it in person, but even just from the photos online, it's inspiring. And on the Facebook post that Michigan Department of Corrections made, there were so many positive comments. People were so encouraged to see that these incarcerated men were being given an opportunity not just to create something meaningful, but also learning a skill that can help them contribute to society when they do parole. So, Jesse, have you created any artwork like this previously?
I have not, and I am not
Okay.
an artist. So that was also a thing. I got welding abilities, but the creativity side of it was really not my forte. So there was a couple of my students who were artists, but nobody in my class really had any metal sculpture experience. So we were all a little bit nervous about it from the beginning. Like we committed to making this sculpture, and we were all concerned that it was going to turn out really bad. But when it actually came together and got done, it turned out better than anybody, myself included, expected. So they were very excited, and they were very proud of their work because it did turn out very well. I was impressed with how it ended up looking.
I mean, just from the photos, I'm so impressed.
I've done
Yeah.
hundreds of sculptures, and I'm still concerned that they're gonna look like crap when I start. So that's something that never goes away.
Yeah. I am very much not an artsy guy, so I was a little bit nervous trying to, I guess, head this project up.
Well, it looks like it was an absolute success. So,
Yeah.
congrats to you and your students on that. Where's the sculpture now?
It's on display at the lobby at the facility, which I thought was a cool place for it because now when they're all getting visitors, as the visitors
Yeah.
come in, it's right there. And so they can see it on their way to visit their family.
Wow, that's fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that. Does it Did that whole process inspire you to want to do something like that again, to have a big project to work on?
Mixed reactions. So the feedback we got was overwhelmingly positive. Like you said, all the Facebook comments, I printed off a lot of those and showed them to my guys just so they could see what kind of feedback they were getting on it.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to go through it. It was a lot of work though, and it was very stressful for those few months. So it'll have to be determined if we continue to do things like that, but it probably won't be a every year thing at least, but we might do it again because it was really cool to see the results of it.
And now you've gone through the process of getting the approvals and going through the channels, so that probably gives you a little bit better idea of what you're up against the next time.
Yeah.
What sort of projects do they do inside? Are they doing anything for the facility itself, or just like practicing, getting certified? Like what's that like?
So we run the AWS Sense curriculum. I'm not sure if you've heard of that or not. So they get a Sense certificate at the end of it, depending on the number of processes they've completed. So they are doing mostly practice. They end up doing a 2G and 3G bend test with stick. That's part of the certificate for stick welding, structural with backer, limited thickness. And then there's several performance tests that they have to do to complete each process. So they have to read a blueprint, cut out all their materials, build it and weld it all in position according to the blueprint. We do actually do a number of projects for the facility, which is cool to have real things that they can work on. Typically I have my better students work on those so it doesn't get messed up, but yeah, mostly practice on. I try to give them a range of thicknesses, so I have them weld all the way down from 16 gauge all the way up to 3/8 and anywhere in between, and various positions with all the processes.
That's cool because it also gives them something to aspire to. Like, hey, if I work on this more, maybe I'll get one of those projects to work on.
Yeah.
Guys are there for different lengths of time, and so how does that work? So they take the welding class and, they go from A to Z and it's over, or is there an opportunity for them to continue learning if they're there longer?
Yeah. So the minimum completion is 6 months approximately, and that's just to learn stick welding and some of the bookwork. The whole class is considered to be a 1-year program. So people who complete all 4 welding processes and still have some time before their dates, assuming they were good students, I try to give the privileges to the ones who really are wanting to be there, wanting to continue. Then I let them stay on a little bit longer to learn some of the robotic programming. And the best opportunity they have, if they still have a decent amount of time before they're getting out, is they can actually become a worker. They can become a tutor. And so the state would hire them as a tutor, and they can continue in the program working, helping me with teaching some of the other students.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Is this something that they sign up for, or do they have to have a certain eligibility requirements are there to get into the program? Like, is there a behavior thing? Are there other factors going?
There are some behavior things. It's not extremely rigid with that. For example, if they've gotten in trouble for having weapons, probably not going to allow them in the program because we're not wanting them to make weapons, obviously, in our weld shop. But for the most part, most people are allowed in there. When they come to prison, once they get within a certain length of time away from getting out, they do some career counseling, and they meet with somebody and they talk about what their career goals look like. And then they're given the opportunity to request their trades. And I think they give them their top 3 trades that they are interested in. And then when space opens up, I'm not entirely sure what that process looks like because that's not my area that I deal with, but they end up putting them on the wait list for one of the trades that they're interested in. And then when they get close enough to their out date, then they would get put into the class. So typically people are being put into the class when they have anywhere between 1 and 2 years before they're getting out.
Okay. Yeah, that was another question. That makes sense.
Yeah. We try to avoid taking people who are too far out because you train someone for a year how to weld, and then they sit around for 4 years without doing it. They're not going to be able to go out and
perishable
do very
skill.
well on a weld test after 4 years of sitting around.
What has this opportunity really taught you about leadership?
That is a good question. It is interesting because even though I'm young, a lot of them do look to me as a leader, because I've been down the road and they can, as I do demos and stuff, they can see that I have the well skills and I've done relatively well in my career, and they ask a lot of questions, a lot of career advice, and it is a little bit strange having, a 60-year-old asking me for career advice. um but yeah, it has taught me a lot about interacting with people. There's a lot of different personalities in prison. Respect is very, very important. When you give people respect, they respect you back, and you're
Right.
able to have a lot more impact on them. When they know that you care about them, you do respect them as a person, they're a lot
Mhm.
more willing to listen to you and hear what you have to tell them and learn from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that question because you are so young, so I'm sure you're learning a lot
Hmm.
along the way too, right?
Yeah.
I know how that works. What sort of goals do you have? Do you have like future goals for the program, or are there any changes you'd like to make, or is it like pretty set in stone?
So one thing that I'd like to get more involved with, is I don't even know if it's possible, is some networking to get them placement when they get out. That would be one thing that I would really like to see more of. There is a department within the Department of Corrections, an offender success division that is supposed to help people find jobs. I don't know how successful that is because I just haven't been involved with that to this point. But I'd like to get more involved with that and be able to see the placement with a lot of these guys and actually know what they're getting, because it is a little bit hard if you've never done an interview before and you don't really know how to apply for a job and you don't know what to expect. It is
Yeah.
hard to get your first welding job. You're coming in as a student with no work experience. A lot of people are going to turn you away right at the door if you don't have that work experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone wants an experienced welder, but nobody wants to, hire somebody to give them that experience.
Right. That is one, I guess, complaint that I have about the welding world. Almost every
100%.
job you see posted is 1 to 2 years of experience required. It's hard to get that experience.
Yeah, I belong to several different women in welding groups on Facebook, and that is the number one thing that you hear from, welders fresh out of tech programs or, their high school welding program, whatever it might be.
That first job is really hard to get. But I do tell them, if you can persevere and you get that first job, then that world opens up to you, and there's an unlimited amount of opportunity.
I mean, there are some programs that have really good partnerships with different businesses. I'm sure it's a little bit more difficult for, the corrections department to
Yeah.
work with businesses. I love that they have an instructor like you inspiring them and teaching them and getting them set up for success. I just think that's absolutely incredible, and to be doing it so young. I love that you recognized your love for teaching and took a chance on a job that probably a lot of people saw and, immediately clicked out of
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it. What was the thing that really made you say, "Okay, I'm going to do this. Like I want to do this. I want to try this out."
I think just a lot of the stuff that I've talked about, the potential rewards, about taking people who have really, a lot of them have never done anything with their lives. Others have, but have just really messed up. But taking people and giving them the tools they need to get out of prison, find a stable job, and stick with it and become productive members of society, having a job that really can change people's lives is quite amazing. And I really do enjoy that part of it. I hear so much from these guys about how excited they are to get out there and have a real job and a stable career, that it is very rewarding, and I hope for the best for all these guys.
Yeah. Who are some of your mentors, or who inspired you in the welding world
Hmm.
or just in general?
Yeah. I had a very good boss with my first job. He was my weld shop supervisor. Really did inspire me. His name was Ken Haas. I'll give him a shout out. He's a plant manager now at Nelson Steel. Really great boss though, and always pushed me on to become a better welder and have that mindset of a good enough weld is not good enough. And that's really how you become a much more skilled welder. If you're always just content with your okay weld, then you're never going to get better. He's
Yeah.
always pushing to get better and better and better and have those good work ethics. And he was incredible. He was able to push me on to better success and to really care about my work. And helped me instill that good work ethic.
What sort of advice would you give to a younger student just starting out in a welding program? They're really interested. Maybe they're struggling a little bit, but what sort of advice would you give?
They persevere. Keep going. I have this problem all the time with my students. It's their first day of welding. Like, oh, I'm terrible at this. I'm never going to get it. 'Cause it can be a very frustrating trade to learn. There's a lot of stones in the way that you got to jump over when
Yep.
you're learning how to weld, and also finding that first job like we've already talked about. But you persevere and you get into it, you dig your feet in, you keep going. Like I said, welding is an incredible field. There are so many opportunities. I mean, they're hiring welders in probably every city across the country. There's just unlimited opportunity. So if you can just keep going, the welding skills will come. You keep practicing, they will come, and you can make a very good career out of this trade.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's funny you talk about the stones you have to clear. I always talk about walls. Like when you first start, those walls in front of you come in rapid succession. Like it takes a while to break down one, and then there's another one right there, and then eventually they're farther and farther apart. And as you gain that experience, it becomes easier to break through those walls. But you've got to gain that experience. So it can be frustrating at the beginning, but it all
Yeah.
adds up in the end to to your knowledge base. Yeah, and anything worth having it doesn't come easy.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of these guys, they do want to give up at some point. A lot of them have just been frustrated until I'm just going to sign off the program. I'm done. I'm quitting. And no, just stick it out for a little bit longer. And invariably they get through that weld that was struggling. They were struggling on, they passed their bend test, whatever's been holding them up. And then just seeing the smiles on their face. The bend tests are one of my favorite things to do, because some of them have failed at 4, 5, 6 times, and they get that one that passes and they just get so excited. They start jumping around. They take their bend test and they go on to go show everybody. And it is very fun.
How much of it is teaching versus counseling? Is it mostly just straight up like instruction, or is there a lot of you just got to have an ear or be a voice to something?
It depends a lot on the person. Some people are looking for mostly teaching. They don't want to talk about their lives. They don't want to,
Right.
get personal about it or anything. Other people are a little bit more where, yeah, I just have to listen to them and talk them through some of their concerns. And they're saying, is this really going to work for me? Am I really going to be able to get a job in this? Is this worth it? And answering some of those types of questions. It really depends on the person.
That's one of the things that's kind of unique and cool about what you're doing is, like you were talking about how, the big classroom setting doesn't really work because everyone's on their own timeline. Individual teaching is not something that we do on scale in this country a lot, but to me, it's the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
That's got to be a really, I don't know, that's kind of like a fringe benefit almost to the way you're doing things, is you're able to talk to people on a one-on-one basis, because everyone is in a different spot and they all learn differently and react differently. And I've got to imagine that's kind of a nice way to go about the instruction.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can be complicated at times because you're trying to keep track of all these students, but at the same time, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it definitely has its pluses and minuses, just like you were talking about. When you got 15 guys, and a lot of times I feel like all 15 of them need me at the same time.
Right.
And I can't be in multiple places. So that part can be kind of, I guess, a downer of the individualized teaching, because I'm helping one guy out and I got 3 other guys who are waiting for me and they're stuck on something and they're not able to move, and I'm trying to rush around to get to everybody. So yeah, the time is a lot more time intensive trying to teach people one-on-one. But I really do enjoy that kind of instruction better, being able to just go into a booth with somebody and spend 15, 20 minutes, whatever they need, and really just be able to see the progress that they make, especially when they have those light bulb moments when I'm just in there with the booth with them. That is really incredible feeling as a teacher. Like then they just finally get it and it works and they get so excited. Yeah, very rewarding.
Right. Yeah. Do you have a tutor in your class right now?
Yep. I have 3 tutors total that we hire. Yep. And 2 of them were welders out in the world and then ended up getting in prison. And then one of them was a graduate from the program who was able to go through and become a tutor.
Right on.
Wow. That's incredible.
One of my tutors is a pretty cool story, because he ended up in prison when he was 15. and he never had a real job. He had gained no skills, didn't know how to read a tape measure, no very little math abilities, just didn't really have any skills, and been in prison for almost 20 years. And he's gonna be getting out soon. And he was just thrilled beyond belief to be able to go through this program. He had an incredible attitude, was one of the best guys that I've had, and just really was eating up any instruction I could give him, and earned his spot to becoming a tutor, and then was going around helping other guys, and was just looking forward so much to getting out and getting a job in welding. A lot of cool stories like that.
How crazy is that I mean, obviously you can make grievous mistakes at any age, but from 15 on, you're in the system, and now you have an opportunity to leave with an actual skill set. And man, it's sad and it's amazing all at the same time, you know?
Yeah. I'd say as one of the biggest rewards is the guys who get it and they really want to go and improve their lives, but it's also in that same way, it's also one of the saddest things and biggest challenges when there's guys who throw away the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, this could do so much for you. You could really turn your life around, and then they throw it away one way or another. It's really sad thing to see.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the Arc Redemption sculpture. I feel like it just tells the story of, your shop and the work that you're doing there, not just teaching a skill, but they're watching you. So they're also looking at your leadership skills, learning the welding skills, and having a chance to really turn their lives around. Like, the sculpture is such a perfect representation of that and the opportunity that they have. And I love that people were able to see that.
There's definitely a certain mindset out there that people in prisons they're criminals. They'll always be criminals. That's who they are. And there's nothing to do with them. Just leave them in prison, let them rot.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, they just need an opportunity, and they really do have the desire to do something with their lives. And I agree. I think this sculpture really did show that, and what they're hoping to gain with the skill and with the trade, and being able to hold down a steady job and rebuild their lives.
That's so inspiring.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Jesse, what is your favorite welding process?
TIG. 100% TIG. Yep.
I'm down with that.
Do you have your own machine at home?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do a ton of side work. It's something that I'm kind of interested in getting into, but I know I'm sure you know all about it because you have your own business, but there's a lot of work and stuff that goes into running your own business and marketing and all the stuff.
Oh,
we will see.
absolutely.
I might start something up eventually.
Oh, the nice thing about starting your own thing is you've got a career, and you can start it at any skill you want to. It could be small, like, and grow later or whatever. That's kind of how I went about it. But there's thought that has to go into that for sure. And you don't want to get burned out on what you're doing either.
Yeah.
When I get to actually just do welding, it's just zen. It's, it clears my mind. Everything else goes away. It's just, whether it's, TIG, or we do a lot of pults at the day job on like heavy armor, or it's taking aluminum or stick welding, whatever it is. Like, once you start that arc and until you finish it, there's just there's nothing else and that's got to be, going back to your class and your students. Like, there's obviously, if you're within those walls, you kind of want an escape to a certain extent, and when you can drop the hood and just burn some metal, man, like, that's on a spiritual level, there's something to that.
I've actually had several guys come up and tell me that they love this class so much because for a few hours a day, they say they feel like a normal person.
100%. That is probably the greatest gift you could give them. You know, like, for us who have all this freedom, it's amazing. I can only imagine the escape it is for someone who's dreaming about that freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I feel like this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm so excited to share, some of your story and the story of the Arc Redemption sculpture and what you're doing at the Muskegon Correctional Facility.
There are a lot of good things happening at the MDOC. I mean, it has its faults, obviously, like any organization, but there are a lot of good things coming out of it.
Right on. That's awesome.
That's incredible. Well, Jesse, we wish you all the success.
Cool.
Yeah.
It was awesome talking.
Yeah, it was great talking to you as well. I thank you very much for having me on.
Jesse, thank you so much for sharing your story and the work you're doing. What really stands out is that this program isn't just about welding, it's about dignity, confidence, and giving people a real path forward, giving them purpose, and the respect that you bring into the shop, the one-on-one teaching and projects like the Arc Redemption sculpture show what's possible when we invest in people and treat them like human beings. And welding becomes more than a skill. It becomes a way to rebuild identity and purpose. And we also love how the conversation just reinforces something we talk about all the time. Working with your hands matters. Welding can be grounding, confidence building, even healing. So for these students, those hours under the hood aren't just about learning a trade. They're moments where they get to feel human and capable and focus on something constructive. So thanks to Jesse for taking a chance on a role that not everyone would say yes to, and for doing it with humility and respect, especially at such a young age. And to Jesse's students, to the men who come into his shop, the work that you're doing matters, what you're learning matters, and your project, Arc Redemption, absolutely deserves to be seen. So this is exactly what Still Building America is all about. People, craft, second chances, and the belief that when you give someone real tools and real opportunity, incredible things can happen. Thanks again to Jesse for sitting down and talking with us and sharing some of his story. And as always, thanks to you for listening to the Still Building America podcast.
Still Building America is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association and part of the FMA Podcast Network. The podcast is hosted and created by Darla and Josh Welton. Episodes are produced and edited by Garrett Slager and Darla Welton. Additional production support by Dan Davis, Andy Flando, Dana Weicker, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Elizabeth Gavin, and me, Sarah Spring. Thank you for listening.